Vyasam tato jaymudirayet Shunvatam swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hyabadrani Vidnoti Suhrusatam Nastapraya Shobadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 4. So let me share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So we'll read the verse and the word-to-word meaning and the translation and purport. Tasya putro mahayogi
Tasya putro mahayogi
samadrun nirvikalpaha
samadhrun nirvikalpaha
ekantamatir unnidro
ekantamatir unnidro
Godo moda iveyati
gudo muda iveyate
Tasya putro mahayogi
tasya putro mahayogi
Samadrun nirvikalpaha
samadhrun nirvikalpakaha
Ekantamatir unnidro
ekantamatir unnidro
Godo moda iveyati
gudo muda iveyate
Tasya putro mahayogi
tasya putro mahayogi
Samadrun nirvikalpaha
samadhrun nirvikalpakaha
Ekantamatir unnidro
ekantamatir unnidro
Godo moda iveyati
gudo muda iveyate
Yate. Anyone wants to
tasya putro mahayogi
Tasya putro
Mahayogi
drun nirvikalpakaha
Samadrun
Nirvikalpaha
ekantamatir unnidro
Ekantamatir unnidro
gudo muda iveyate
Godo
Muda Yuveyate.
Anyone else? Okay. So we'll read the word-to-word translation. Tasya, his, Putraha, son, Mahayogi, a great devotee, Samadrik, equibalanced, Nirvikalpakaha, absolute monoist, Ekantamatihi, fixed in monoism or oneness of mind, Unnidraha, surpassed nescience, Gudaha, not exposed, Mudaha, stunted, Iva, like, Iyate, appears like. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His, Vyasadeva's son, was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist, whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. Srila Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and thus he remained always alert not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned soul have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like a dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. A conditioned soul and a liberated soul may apparently be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in matter, whereas the liberated soul is completely indifferent to matter. This indifference is explained as follows. So we'll discuss this. We'll say a few the pranam mantras so that I will be able to speak here in accordance with the previous acharyas, and you will be able to listen and render as a service to Krishna as each other. Please say along with me, so we'll say it together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन
Tasmai Sri
तस्मै
Gurave
श्रीगुरवे
Namaha
नमः
Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lelita Shri Vishakanvitamsha नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you all for joining and thank you for the opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this chapter is about Shaunakadi Munis who are assembled in the Naimasharanya listening to Sutta Goswami. They are wondering, they're asking the question of what is the Vrittanta, means like what is the uh, well, history or what is the origin behind the Srimad Bhagavatam. How did so the Sutta Goswami was explaining about Sukadeva Goswami giving this Srimad delivering this Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and they wanted to know like how did Sukadeva Goswami give this knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj, and they were asking, they were a little bit also surprised. Sukadeva Goswami is a monist, means like he was initially a Nirvikalpa, means like Nirvishesha, like the people who say that everything is Brahman, there is nothing beyond Brahman. So then how come such a person became a devotee and also delivered this information, this great knowledge, and this whole about devotional service to Parikshit Maharaj? And we read, right, Saunaka is the leader of the group who is listening to Suta Goswami. And he is asking on behalf of all the audience. And he's saying that how did Sukadeva Goswami, and also he was like a wandering person all over. He was not wearing any clothes. He appeared like a mad person. Um, uh, and then how come the will come in the later verses that how come the citizens of the kingdom of Parikshit Maharaj are able to even identify this great that this person and know that this person is a great devotee and he is completely in transcendental knowledge, and those questions will come up. But in this particular verse, they are asking that how come this person, being a great yogi, also a monist, and who doesn't look like an ordinary person but appears to be like a Muda, how was he able to deliver this kind of knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj? And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying that the appearance is not what we have to look at, right? It is Sukadeva Goswami is a Nitya Siddha, and the conditioned souls are nitya baddhas. So this concept we also discussed in the previous verses when we were discussing about on the whole Vaikuntha, Kshiroda Sai Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, and how these material universes are formed. So all the living entities that are expansions of the Supreme Lord, three-fourth of them are Nitya Siddhas. They have been always in the Vaikuntha planets only, or in the spiritual world. But one-fourth of the living entities are conditioned. They are called Nitya Baddhas. And what is the difference is, it is that the liberated souls are never under the influence of the Supreme Lord's illusory energy. They are always fixed up in devotional service, or they are always fixed up in complete service to the Supreme Lord. But the Nityabaddhas are always under the illusion. They are, I'm getting some background noise. They are always, yeah, so Nityabaddhas are always under illusion, and they, yeah, so they are always under illusion and they associate themselves with matter. Means aham mameti, means they draw a boundary around themselves and say, this is mine, this is mine. They want to enjoy independently from the Supreme Lord. And Bhagavad Gita briefly describes the about these two types of people, and that's what Prabhupada is referring to here, and compares them and contrasts them. What appears to be like a dream for a Nitya Siddha is an actual activity for the Nitya Baddha. And similarly, what appears like a dream for the Nitya Baddha is like an actual activity for the Siddha. Means the yogis who are always fully engaged in devotional service or the yoga activities, when a materialistic person sees them, they'll be like, who is this person wasting this life and not enjoying life? Why are they struggling, trying to do this sadhana, trying to create this voluntary struggles? Why can't they just enjoy life? This life was given to enjoy, eat, sleep, make merry. Why are these people having all these things? And even our relatives, like once we start practicing Krishna consciousness, they will feel like, oh, this person became brainwashed or something. They will think that, oh, this person uh, is not in his proper mind, because for them it appears that what we are doing is completely against their understanding. They think that this life is all for enjoyment only, and once they see that we are trying to take some voluntary penances and austerities, they think that they're unnecessarily wasting our time, and they say that they try to cover up saying that, oh, you have to do it after 60 years, why you are doing now itself. But after 60 years, our brain will not even listen to what we are saying. Like our brain becomes so rigid. As we keep growing, I mean, the flexibility or the fluidity of the brain will stop, and then it will be very difficult. And at that time, if we are so much materialistic, if we are covering ourselves with so many desires after desires after desires, like Gopikanta Prabhuji was touching yesterday, like we will think that, oh, I have to wait for my kids to grow up. I want to see them get married. I want to have grandkids. And some people even at that point think that I want to see my grandkids also get married. And they will never take up Krishna consciousness. But we have to take it up as soon as possible. And on the other hand, the yogis who see the material, like the yogis who are fully realized, when they look back at the people who are materialistic, they will be like, oh, this person, why is he wasting his life not taking up Krishna consciousness? Why is he going after this mad things like like um, a mouse that is running in the cycle of trying to go somewhere but not going anywhere? Because in this material world, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then it doesn't give, it keeps us in the animalistic life. But then the four miseries are janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi. Means we all have to take birth, we all will get sometime or the other some disease, and then we become old, where the things that we were able to do when we were young, we will not be able to do anymore. And everyone in this material world has to die. uh, and even Yudhishthir Maharaj says that he's when the Yaksha Prashnas, right, when the Yaksha was asking the questions, what is something that fascinates you the most, or the most fascinating thing in the world? Yudhishthir Maharaj says that every one of the people in the world knows that they are going to die, but they keep keeping the thought away, saying that, oh, this is, I'm not going to die, this is not, I'm not going to die today, and then they keep on wasting their life. So we all don't know when things are happening, what things will happen at any point of time. But what we know currently is that we it's all, the life is about choices. Do every step of the way we are making choices from the day we begin. And actually, our first choice was to enjoy independently from the Supreme Lord. Of course, some religions they have this concept of original sin, but in the Sanatan Dharma, we don't call it as a sin, but we go by the words choices. So the first choice, like of course, it's not the original cause. Because if we say that I'm the original sin and that's why I came here, then we are giving the importance to our uh, thinking that we are greater. But it is said that Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, means Krishna is the cause of all causes. So the original cause is Krishna, and from him expanded Balaram, and from Balaram all these incarnations come. And when Mahavishnu saw that some of the living entities wanted to enjoy independently, he created this material world. Because of we have this propensity to enjoy independently, because Krishna wants to enjoy also, right? So There is no different. But unfortunately or fortunately, because we get the opportunity to engage ourselves in devotional service, we have this little independence where we made a choice that I want to enjoy independently from the Supreme Lord. And that was our first choice. And from that point onwards, we get material bodies. And in the material bodies, we are constantly making choices. Every time we wake up in the morning, we have a choice. Should I take any activity towards Krishna consciousness, or should I continue in the material activity? And in the even like before coming to Krishna consciousness, also we had the choice. Uh, how do I deal with the problems? Should I keep my path in the righteousness, or should I take the wrong path? And every time that we make choices, we're causing an action, and that will create reactions. So the choice we have to make is this: do we want to be continuous to be Nityabhaddhas, or do we want to become Nityasiddhas? Of course, when I say Nitya Siddhas, we don't want to get hung up with the concept that, oh, I have been in the material world for so long, so I'm a Nitya Baddha. But this chapter is very apt because Narada Muni is being introduced in this chapter, and Narada Muni, as we know, is a Nitya Siddha, and so is other people like Sukadeva Goswami, like being mentioned here. But then the question comes up is, how can we become like such people? The Nitya Baddhas also can become Siddhas. There are two ways. One is the sadhana process and one is the kripa process. Means that there are called sadhana siddhas and there are also called kripa siddhas. Means we living entities can also go back to the spiritual world, and that process is there are two ways: either we do this devotional service or we get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And this whole Srimad Bhagavatam is giving so many examples of Nitya Siddhas, Sadhana Siddhas, Kripa Siddhas, like that. Some examples of Sadhana Siddhas are like uh, basically Prahlad Maharaj, and he engaged in devotional service constantly. And also, in terms of Kripa Siddhas, uh, Bali Maharaj, right? We discussed briefly about his story where he was engaged in all the activities, even though he was born in a demoniac family. He engaged all his activities in conquering the three worlds and all. But when he came face to face with Vamanadev, the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he made a choice. Even though his spiritual master was telling him, don't surrender to him. He is the Supreme Lord. He came to take your life away. And what the choice he made is, no, I want to surrender to the Supreme Lord. There is no better thing than doing that. And as soon as he did that, he immediately got the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And Vamanadev, even now, he is guarding the Sutala planet where Parikshit Maharaj is located. Sorry, when where Bali Maharaj is ruling that planet. So what I'm saying is like basically we all have the choices to make. Either we make a choice to uh, take up this devotional service, or we continue in the material activity. And basically, this Damodar month is a very auspicious month, and we know that when Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna, she was always 2 fingers too short. She tries to bind with the rope, it is 2 fingers short. She adds more rope to it, tries to bind again, it is still 2 fingers too short. What does the 2 fingers represent? The acharyas say that the 2 fingers represents, one is our endeavor, our sadhana, and the next one is Krishna's mercy. If our endeavor is not there, Krishna's mercy will not come. And unless Krishna's mercy comes, we have to keep doing our sadhana. So during this month of Kartik, we can increase our devotional service and make a choice to do more and more service. And um, basically, and we should not be, of course, preaching is one activity, and if some materialistic people are not too much interested in the devotional activities, we should not disturb them. But the main thing we have to understand is this sadhana process is for us to purify ourselves and go back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada says there will be so many people in this world who might not be interested in taking taking up devotional service, and they could be in our family only. We should not be worried about it. This whole devotional service is for us to purify ourselves, and if we purify ourselves first, then whoever is following us will see that, oh, this person is transformed. I want to be like them. Instead of us saying, so first we have to practice these things ourselves, and then we have to preach. And of course, if we the more we practice and the more pure we become, the more impact we'll have in our preaching also. And when we are doing this Damodar Puja, right? So we uh, basically offer the ghee lamp 4 times to the lotus feet, 2 times to the belly, 3 times to the head, and 7 times. What is the significance? Basically, in this material world, we are constantly engaged in this purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, like going back to the choices. I want to follow a particular kind of a religious process. I want to engage in dharma, artha means economic development, and I want to use it for some sense gratification, kama. And finally, after all this is done, I want to try for moksha. But what we are seeking is not even moksha. We are seeking something higher, which is the pure love of Godhead. And Satyavrata Muni very nicely describes the goal, the process, and the glory of the Supreme Lord's form. And how we are, basically what we have to do is, when we are approaching the Supreme Lord, we have to surrender all this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Even namoksha graho mesti means Satyavrata Muni says, I don't even want moksha also. So when we want the pure love for Krishna, we have to go, we have to surrender everything. We don't want any dharma for ourselves, means anything religion that is outside of Krishna consciousness, which is, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parijya mamekam sharanam vraja. We don't want any artha. We don't want any money that we want to engage, which is outside of Krishna's service. We don't want any kama, means anything we want to enjoy is in relation with the Supreme Lord. We don't want any sense pleasures other than that. Those are the 4 regulative principles that we follow. And finally, we don't want moksha also. This is a little counterintuitive to understand, because after all, we know that we have been telling this material world is a dukkhalayam ashashvatam, and we want to get out of this material world. Then why we are saying we don't want moksha also? Because Krishna, Sukadeva Goswami says later in, I think, sixth canto, when the topic of Rishabhadeva says comes, and he says that Vishnu will give liberation very easily, but he will not, Vishnu or Krishna the same, he will not give the love of Godhead so easily. So if you are approaching someone and you are asking for something, what they will give something that is very easy to attain, right? So if we are asking the demigods, what they will give some of material benefits which are which they can give very easily. Of course, they will not have the ability to give moksha, so they cannot do. But when we are going to the topmost person who can give everything, then they will say, okay, the easiest thing, everyone is asking for moksha. We are approaching him because we are feeling miserable in this material world. So they say, okay, this moksha will give you, will take you all your miseries away, and they will give moksha. But the most dear, and Krishna would not give that so easily, because he voluntarily wants to give pleasure to the pure devotees. When you look at the all the pastimes that are happening in Gokula, Krishna doesn't exhibit his godhood. He appears as like an ordinary child. In fear of Mother Yashoda, he's running and he's crying. And so basically, what we can understand is he will not show any of his godhood. In that, basically, it is said that Krishna will take all his godhood, put it in a box, lock it, and throw the key away when he's in Gokula. So he appears like an ordinary kid. And why would he do that for everybody? He wants to do it only for pure devotees who will be willing to serve him with all their heart. So that's why the pure love doesn't come. And that's why Satyavrati Muni is saying that, oh Krishna, I don't want even moksha also. All I want is that your Sachitananda form, that to be always manifest in my heart. What we can understand is that the we have to surrender all those 4 things at the lotus feet. Then when we are circling the belly to the lamp to the belly 2 times, we have to be always conscious that Nothing is possible without Krishna's mercy. I can do sadhana so many days or so many years, but until and unless Krishna's mercy comes, that we cannot get the pure devotional service. And when we are circumambulating for the three times to the head, we know that the form of the Supreme Lord is the topmost, Sachitananda Vigraha. There is nothing higher than that form. And finally, when we are circumambulating the seven times around the body, which is the seven times we also do during deity worship, it indicates that the seven stages of sadhana bhakti means, or we can take the seven types of devotional service also. Like when we say Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, those all like under comes under sadhana. But the last two, which is Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, are all already under the platform of pure love. Similarly, when it is comes to the seven steps of devotional service, Ado Shraddha, Tatau Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti, then Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, are all the sadhana bhakti. Then come the bhava and prema. So as soon as we come into Krishna consciousness, liberation is guaranteed. What is it said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, I think, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. The moment we get initiated and start chanting, this liberation is guaranteed. And Krishna is even willing to give the Vaikuntha Prapti also if we constantly do this devotion service without fail until we leave this body. But what he will not give so easily is the love of Godhead. And that whole love of Godhead is the aim of all the pure devotees. And we have choices every day. Like, do we want to take up Krishna consciousness or we want to stay in the material world? And if we are in the material world, nobody is forcing anything. Krishna gives all the facilities for us to enjoy. And we can go to a higher planets based on the pious activities that we do, or the lower planets that we or when we do the impious activities. Then after coming to or then we can take up the path of yoga, and then we have a choice. Do we want to follow this karma yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti or ashtanga yoga, or we take the instructions from the previous acharyas that clearly says, even Krishna says, of all the yoga process, bhakti yoga is the topmost. The choice is ours. Nobody is going to force us. And if we want to do Ashtanga yoga, yeah, we can do, but it will take 8 or 10 or even 15 or 30 lifetimes to attain that perfection. Even then, we might not be able to achieve the pure love of Godhead. We will still attain the Brahman realization only. So, but if we make a choice and come to this Bhakti yoga, what is guaranteed is as soon as we are starting to chant and under the guidance of a or a spiritual master, we get the Brahman realization already. Then we have another choice. Do we want to just stick there, or do we want to seek for the pure love of Godhead? Then in that process, we also take an example of other devotees and then follow in their footsteps, and then we might be able to get the pure love of Godhead, which is in one of the five rasas. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is two things. Every day we get up, we make a choice. Do we want to do sadhana, or do we want to continue in our materialistic life? And second thing is, during this month of Kartik, we should try to do increase our sadhana as much as possible, and take the example of Satyavrata Muni and seek that highest goal of Golok Vrindavan and serve Krishna in his pure uh, childhood form or any other forms that we like to associate with. With that, I conclude. I leave any time for questions.
Hare Krishna. Very great system. So I have two questions. One is regarding Satyavrata. Is it the same King Satyavrata who became the Manu bypassed the Manu, or it's different Satyavrata? We can question
I
that.
don't know, probably I have to check, but I did not research about Satyavrata Muni. All I know was the Damodarashtakam was written or composed by Satyavrata Muni and later documented by Vyasadeva.
Yes, okay. Cool. And another question, Prabhuji, regarding Sukadev Goswami. He was the parrot of Srimati Radharani, and he had Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Shiva. And then, with that detachment with material world, he stayed for 16 years inside the mother's womb. And when he came in the house of Vasudeva, but still how he was a monist initially. So if you can put some lights on that, that'd be good.
That is also basically why there is no, because if you say take Bharata Maharaj, right? He was a devotee, but why he got attached to the deer and became a deer? Those are all the examples like that for us to take reference. Like all the Nityabaddhas can seek that even a monoist can become a devotee and then he will be able to deliver so many people. And even if a devotee thinks that he's invincible, there will be sometimes a fall down. So we have to be very careful. This whole Srimad Bhagavatam is all about the different examples. And um, if we want to delve into why instead of taking the essence, then it will be difficult. Because we haven't found that reference why it was a monoist, but there could be someone who, if they focus or meditate on that one, Krishna will reveal the reason. But at least I don't know. Gopikant Prabhuji, do you know the reason? Okay, maybe Prabhu did not join. But essentially, what even Satyavrata Muni in the Damodar Ashtakam, right? As soon as he tells the goal and the process, he also tells the process. What is the process? Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu means he is saying that the process is calling out the Supreme Lord's names. So we are doing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, calling out the Supreme Lord names, so that we'll be able to come over all these uh, conceptions of me, myself, or even the basically the other yoga processes, or even if we are a monoist before, we will be able to take the Supreme Lord's name and come back to Godhead. I don't know if that answered the question, Bobby, but basically, I'm not sure why he was a monist before.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. And he became the pure devotee, and he pursued the personal feature after getting double initiated. Like I mean, the Brahman can initiation, they can sacred as well as listening Srimad Bhagavatam from Vasudeva. Is that understanding Prabhuji correct?
Yeah. So again, like if you take this initiation process, uh, previously, why is initiation required means Dvija Bandhu, like Dvija, right, means like twice born. Why is it twice born? Because in the Kali Yuga, Kalo Sudra Sambhava, by birth, everyone is a Sudra. And that's why they require this initiation process, because the Brahmanas, they sometimes are in the Kali Yuga, they don't follow the samskaras, like like all the samskaras, like Garbhadan samskara and all, which means that there is no guarantee that the children that they are getting born are Brahmanas by default. So that's why by default everyone is considered a Shudra, and only by their qualities at the age of 10 or between 10 and 15 they assess and then they give the initiation. But that is not the case in the previous yugas, because previous yugas there is more perfection, which means that if somebody was a Brahmana, it is expected or it is for sure that there is guarantee that they are already following all the samskaras. So by default, when somebody is born to them, they're already a Brahmana, even though whether you actually do the ceremony or not. So those are mainly for us Kali Yuga, that is all these initiations and all are required.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. But of course, those are recommended in the Shastra, so they still do it in the previous yugas also. But it is more important that we do it now to ensure that uh, we follow the process. Any other questions? All right, if no questions, we close. Prabhu, you want to close, or should we go ahead and close?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for wonderful
Yeah.
class today's. Thank you for that. And let's offer our humble obeisances to Lord Narasimha for the well-being of for ISKCON devotees, and then all over the world. Ugram Viram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvatomukham Narasimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrutyur Namamyeham. Narasimha Bhagavan ki jai. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And also, let's offer our humble prayers to all the Vaishnavas who assembled in this Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. वैष्णव भक्तवृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Thank you for all joining today. So thank you Prabhuji for today's wonderful class. So we all released Bhagavatam. So we wish you wonderful Krishna conscious day ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.